Hello, I'm Nicole White, an A2 media student, and I will be discussing in what ways does my media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products. During my research and planning, I observed how horror films generally operate and the main conventions which I could then incorporate into mine. A horror convention in which I used was the use of dark lighting and filming at night. This convention is frequently used in horror films as it paints a dark, mysterious picture. Also, genuinely, people feel more uneasy at night. This is something I wanted to create for my audience and for my characters in the trailer itself. However, at times it was difficult to convey this as the camera I was using was not of the standard used usually in Hollywood films. This means at times it could be difficult to see the shot. In order to avoid this, I put on a dim lamp on which I believe still reflected the genre of horror as it made the atmosphere eerie and still represented the feeling of being haunted, and an environment you would feel personally uncomfortable in. When completing my horror film poster, it was important for me to reflect horror in an obvious way, as horror film posters generally tend to be obvious due to conventions such as darkness and a dark colour palette. As I still wanted my main antagonist to be unknown and ambiguous to the audience, I decided to do a technique used in the film poster mirrors and fade out a large proportion of her face. I then highlighted and touched on the knife and the blood on her lips to further show conventions of horror and reflect this as a horror. Most horror posters tend to do dark colours on their front page, which I discovered while observing. A big convention of horror films is the music. It is key to get the music right, as it could convey the film in the wrong genre. At first I thought about creating the scene of equilibrium, which it could be argued mine does with the little girl singing. However, there is still a creepy, eerie tone to it. I was going to go with doing a fast chase music, and there was a lot of fast moments cutting also in my trailer. However, I decided to go against this convention and use slow, eerie music with bands in between at the times of action appearing. I believe this set the mood more and made it more creepy than scary, as I wanted to create a creepy effect with scary jump scares. The location of my film and where the trailer is set is in a house. This is a convention used time and time again as it makes people feel uneasy in their own homes. I was wary about using this location as it is so frequently used. I considered going against the convention. However, after going through my audience research, I came to the conclusion that the reason this location is used time and time again is due to the popularity and interest in it. It also fitted the story I was trying to portray, making it the perfect setting. I wanted to do something different than a paranormal force or a slasher. This led me to look at different myths and stories, coming across things such as werewolves and vampires. However, I was familiar with the myth of Bloody Mary, who was told to appear when you say her name in the mirror 3 times. I noticed this was very popular among people and found various YouTube videos and things on social networking sites of people attempting this idea of summoning Mary. This led me to the plot and the name of the production. I wanted to do something that heavily impacted my audience and something they are familiar with, but do it with a twist. This led me to choose the lead as Bloody Mary. Mise-en-scene and costumes were very important in doing so, as they reflect the character and her story. It can also create a creepier, more frightening atmosphere. Mary, played by Kaylee Louise Daly, was dressed as an old-fashioned wedding dress. This showed she was from a different time period and made it more creepy. I also used white paint to make her face seem more ghostly and put black around her eyes. I also put red lipstick to stand out with some blood dripping down. This completed her look and created her into a character that looks harmful and vengeful. Also, when showing people this character I created, they said the way she looked highly impacted my media products, as they found it very frightening. This is a convention used in many horror films, as costume is so important and used, such as in the film Scream, who is famous for the ghost face mask. I wanted to include this but challenge conventions further, as it's hard to tell if this is a paranormal or slasher subgenre, as she's seen ghostly but also with a knife. It could be argued that the trailer is ambiguous, challenging the conventions. Jump scares is something which is frequently used in horror films and a key convention. It is also something my audience were interested in seeing when they voiced in audience research. Due to this, I found it important to use this convention, as it could entice my audience and make them more prone to see the film. I have also witnessed jump scares in many of the horror films I researched. Due to this, I included jump scares in mine and at various points of my trailer. One of the jump scares in which I included was at the beginning of the production. I included the act of Bloody Mary being said 3 times by my 2 main protagonists. It's then that she jumps out at this moment. This is a key moment in my trailer as it reflects the whole plot of the film, and it's also a jump scare, which is something the audience would be very interested in. For my horror magazine cover, I used the layout of Fangoria as I wanted mine to be a new issue of this. I decided to include my antagonist clearly. Looking at the camera, as I think this is a convention I frequently noticed with different Fangoria issues while observing. I also wanted to highly highlight the costume and mise-en-scene used, as I believe that is critical for the film. I included use of conventions such as the price of the magazine and the layout itself. So although it goes for the common conventions of Fangoria, it goes against the usual conventions in general, as many would continue to keep their antagonists ambiguous and not as clear. In conclusion, I have kept to many horror conventions in my horror trailer, magazine and poster, such as the use of lighting, music, mise-en-scene and characters. However, I have put a twist in all the conventions, using them to my advantage and to create something different. A key example of this would be the beginning of the trailer, which sees the text of "Do you want to play a game?" with a little girl singing. Usually a little girl singing would reflect something happy and innocent. However, it has a creepy tone and already sets the mood for something uncomfortable, leading into the horror conventions and enticing the audience.